out of Washington describing windows rattled by industrial blasts and windowsills covered in toxic ash. An African-American resident of Texas oil hub joined the Democratic lawmakers, state officials, and others Tuesday in urging the 45 administration to drop a proposed rollback that they said would silence disadvantaged communities battling the big pollution. The ejection came at the last of two hearings by the White House Council on Environmental Quality and its proposal to cut back environmental reviews and restrict public comment on new highways, pipelines, and other projects under the 1970 Landmark National Environment Policy Act, or something called NEPA, N-E-P-A. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but who cares? The 45 administration, which has expressed frustration at my environmental objections, says that it says that unnecessarily slowing approval for interstate oil and gas pipelines and other big projects. It is proposing restricting the timeline for environmental review and other changes would explicitly allow businesses a role in crafting the environmental assessments of their projects and allow federal officials to disregard a project's role in cumulative effects such as climate change. Many of those speaking at the Washington hearing in an Interior Department auditorium were African American, Latino, and tribal local activists from communities already dealing with pollution from oil refineries, chemical plants, government facilities, and other big sources. They credited the half-century-old NEPA deal with giving poorer communities without much political or economic clout a platform to negotiate with government regulators and big industries, such communities historically are disproportionately exposed to air pollution and other health hazards. Hilton Kelly, a restaurant owner in Port Arthur, Texas, east of Houston, described the neighborhood teenagers so accustomed to industrial explosions and plant leaks in Texas. So the industrial hub said that dangerous chemical releases. Kelly described his window shaking from one of at least 6 major industrial explosions or other accidents in his parts of South Texas over the past year. Many people are still trying to come back from those explosions, Kelly told those at the hearing. When you're talking about weakening NEPA and expediting a process, this is what happens. Don't listen to regulation. Don't silence our voices. An African-American woman from Garysburg, North Carolina, said the public input enshrined in the targeted environmental rollback was what gave her community tools to deal with current and proposed projects for the area, including the pipeline factories and industrial-scale hog farms. You act like you're listening, and I'm not going to say you're not, but we see the results of these hearings, the woman Belinda Joyner told the listening panel of council, environmental quality staffers, and officials. She says, I ask you to do what is right for the people. Listen to us as well as people who got all the money and feel like they can do what they want, Joyner said. The proposed rollback is among the broadest and most consequential of scores of environmental and public health reversals and changes that the 45 administration is seeking. 45 has sought to scale back regulations that he sees as needlessly costing businesses money or slowing their work, especially with regards to the oil and gas industry. The American Petroleum Institute and other oil industry organizations were among those pushing the 45 administration for an action on changes to the NEPA. Business representatives at Tuesday's hearing complained about years-long environmental reviews under the current rules. The 45 administration, a proposal, would limit those environmental studies to an average of no more than 2 years and restrict public comment periods to months. The proposed changes meant timely federal permitting decisions for critical infrastructure projects, encouraging projects like road and bridge buildings that would ease traffic, reduce highway pollution, and improve public safety. And Chad Whiteman, a vice president of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, increasing investor certainty for these projects will unlock investment for infrastructure improvement, Whiteman said. Mary Neumeyer, a chairman for the White House environmental panel, called the rollback a modernization that will not only help our economy but also our environment, which it won't. 2 Democratic lawmakers and a New York State Assistant Attorney General were among the opponents, speaking out in the day-long hearing's first hour. 45 administration for allowing only 60 days of public comment and 2 public hearings for such major changes, as well as criticizing the proposed rule changes. This was designed to ignore and silence the public, said Christy Goldfuss, the chairman of the Council of Environmental Quality under former President Barack Obama. She faulted the parts of the proposal that would let businesses help write their own environment reviews as self-dealing. Shame on you, Goldfuss told her former colleagues on the White House environmental panel. The White House used an online ticket reserve system for the Washington hearing and the earlier one in Denver, so that within minutes, activists and lawmakers complained Tuesday the administration had ignored the request to add any more public hearings. A reporter asked Neumeyer about those complaints several times at Tuesday's hearing. Neumeyer ignored the questions, instead turning to look silently at her panel's press aide each time. Council spokesman Daniel Schneider said later in an email that the White House Environmental Council had engaged in extensive public outreach, and members of the public could still submit written comments. Schneider said, "But yep, and I don't agree with him trying to roll back these regulations either."